It's the first episode ever of First Pitch at WagerTalk.com. I'm the Prez. The infamous hasn't made an appearance on Morning Joe and the Pro, Bryan Leonard, wearing a Cleveland Brown.
Indians.
Good start, Prez. Cleveland Indians hat and Marco D'Angelo wearing something yellow.
It's Pirates.
Yeah,
Old
I know,
school.
buddy. I know. Lots of hope for the Pirates this year.
No, not really.
I'm the Prez, and basically what is going to happen is we're going to be doing two shows. It'll be both up at WagerTalk TV on our YouTube channel and at WagerTalk. This is our baseball preview show, and starting April 6th, this show will be a daily show Monday to Friday with guests like Marco, Brian, Dave Koken, Ralph, Tony, and the rest of the boys. First off, Brian, it's great to have you on. It's about time.
Thank you. It's you finally got me in my one of my specialties, which is baseball. Had a terrific season last year. Won over 115 units for clients up in spring training this year. Doing very well. So far in spring training. Actually, the first time I've ever bet spring training. Got a few tips on how to do that, and I don't want to spoil anything now. The spring training is basically over, but looking forward to betting it in the future.
And Mr. D'Angelo, do you have as much charisma as Brian when he's on my show?
Well, Brian, this is actually his second appearance on Morning Joe and the Pro.
Oh, he made one for you.
That's right.
I told him, I says, is Prez going to be there? He says, no. I says, okay, count me in.
I understand that, Brian. You're like vanilla, and being with the Prez is a full-on Napoleon with Rocky Road, pralines and cream, almonds, caramel, and chocolate sauce.
Lots of nuts. Yeah, I can see that.
Well said. Boys, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some future bets that you guys have made for this baseball season on over and under win-loss. And then we're going to take apart the National League division race. The next show will have Teddy and Dave Koken, which will be doing the same. Some future bets that they have made, and we'll be looking at the American League. The name of the show was really a toss-up between Bases Loaded and First Pitch. Do either of you have an opinion?
We could have said Prez loaded.
Well, Prez is always loaded.
I had two ideas. I said either we got balls or screwballs.
Back to Marco.
Now, I like that it's First Pitch because you're going to be doing it in the morning, and we're throwing out the first pitch of the day in baseball information. So we can roll with that.
Well, there you go. So we got a promo to give out. Baseball is upon us. Marco, I hand it to you, my co-founder of WagerTalk, my partner in crime.
Well, we've got a coupon, MLB 200. And right now, you can save $200 on a season package from your favorite capper at WagerTalk. As Brian told you, he had a monster year last year. Another big year for me in baseball as well. Going back to the 2017 season, we've made over 100% as well for our clients. And it wouldn't be a show about baseball if I didn't slip in.
Oh, yeah, we're waiting. Both Brian and I are waiting. Don't you worry.
Yeah. The only guy to ever win 25 baseball games in a row, never laying more than 120. Dogs, all dogs and small favorites. So we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary next year, Prez. So we got to do something big for that next year. But check out your favorite capper for a $200 discount, MLB 200. And I can tell you, is Brian, great year last year, absolutely phenomenal. This guy takes his baseball seriously out there, in spring training, when we're bringing guys up. I'm never a guy that's going to tell you I know all the players on a team. Brian can rattle off the prospects for you. He's deep into fantasy baseball. Not deep into people's fantasies, but deep into...
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's in nobody's fantasies.
but this is something that gives him really a big edge in baseball. He knows what these guys are whenever somebody goes out and they bring somebody up. So kudos to Brian. He's got a lot of free time, and he digs deep into baseball, not only on the major league level, but what's on the farm system, and he knows the value when they come up.
You notice he said I had a lot of free time. He's got to get a little dig at me, even though he promoted me. He's got to come back and say, hey, the guy goes to movies all the time. What can you say?
Well, any good movies that I should be seeing?
Nothing out there right now.
It's really empty at movie-wise.
Yeah, I can't even leave the house. It sucks. If I leave the house, I got to go out with like Marco. So I'm staying in the house a lot lately.
He's Bryan Leonard. Other guys, Marco D'Angelo, and I'm the Prez. You're listening to First Pitch. This show starts in earnest on April 6th. No, not April 6th, April 8th. The Monday, April 8th, and it'll be every day at WagerTalk TV. And we'll be talking baseball just like we do in hockey on Puck Time. Okay, guys, really, I'm not going to make the show about me. I never do when it comes to hosting shows. So, Marco, let's start with you. I just want to hear some baseball over and unders that you're looking at or have already bet.
Well, I'll tell you, a team that I'm very high on this year, and I'm making 2 future wagers with them, and that's the St. Louis Cardinals. I like this Cardinal team. The over-under for them season win totals is 88.5. This is a team that last year, if you remember, during the season, fired their man.
And I think we froze.
It took a long streak, and I think they're going to carry that momentum into the season this year. 88.5 wins. This is a very competitive division with the 3 teams up top, but I think St. Louis is going to prevail in this one. I'm also going to make a wager on them. You can get them to win the National League Central at plus 200 right now at Westgate here in Las Vegas. Like the pitching rotation, last year, Miles Mikolas had a fantastic year, breakout season for him. Came back over after pitching in Japan. Flaherty had a good start last year. I look for him to carry that. Carlos Martinez right now penciled in probably as the number 3 starter. Got some injuries last year. If he stays healthy, this is a very good 1-2-3 on the top of the rotation. I'll go ahead and make St. Louis over my top future wager and take them to win the division.
Bryan Leonard, you are a legend with these future bets. You make the college ones months in advance. Give us one of your future bets for baseball, and we'll just go back and forth with you guys.
I appreciate that. You did mention the show's going to start on April 8th, so we're not going to start on the beginning of the baseball season on March 28th?
We can, if Marco will host the first week.
Got you. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. I'm available anytime for baseball. I've got all my work done. Let me talk about the way I go about handicapping baseball futures. And I do this for the other teams, the other sports as well. A lot of people take a look at what the finals records were from the previous year and go from that point. But there's so much disparity in the final scores of these games and the way the season plays out. I look at base runs, which is basically how many runs a team scores and how many runs they give up. That's a better indicator for myself and a lot of people who do this for a living. And when I take a look at Atlanta last year, that was a team that with base runs, they were up 92. They should have won 92 games. But then you have to factor in how many games they won by 1 run and how many games they won in extra innings. Because that's basically a coin flip every year. You're going to have regression to the mean. Last year, Atlanta was plus 11 in 1-run games and plus 3 in extra inning games. So if you were to take those out and even those up, Atlanta was probably about an average ball club, like an 82-win team. I also go through for the following year, I go back and I use one of the sites that I respect, and I go by and look at Team WAR. And Team WAR for Atlanta is 81.8 this season. And I have a number that I've already bet. I bet Atlanta under 85.5. So I'm getting some nice value on that. And it's basically, I like this Atlanta team. They were expected to be very good this year, and they just had a good year the year before. So now everybody's expectations are up. But even the Braves right now, they're having problems with their starting rotation.
Yeah.
Tehran is going to be their opening day starter. He's not very good. They've had a couple other guys. Fulton Evans is injured right now. They've got a couple starters that are injured. They actually have 3 rookies that are going to make the opening day roster for starting the first week. Wilson, Wright. I mean, these guys have some talent. They just have not played at this level before. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Atlanta really struggle out of the gate until they get their starters back. And you're counting on a lot of guys that have had injury problems. Their big signing in the offseason was Josh Donaldson. And when he's playing, he's a great player. But he's been in and out of the lineup for the last few years. And I still don't think he's the same player as he was before. He made big money. But Atlanta's got some good players down in the minors. As the season goes on, we'll see more of them. And I'll like the team better as the season progresses. But right now, I bet the under for season wins.
You know, guys, when I look at baseball, baseball for me is I take the season and I look at it as a whole. And I try to pick 3 to 6 teams that I'm really going to be on a lot, especially in over and unders in the games. You go back a couple of years, you bet San Diego under from start to finish, or San Francisco under from start to finish. You go back 6 or 7 years, you take the Rockies over, Texas over, even with the high numbers. And you just do that day in and day out and day in and day out, and the math will work for you, and you end up, if you pick the right teams, having a good season. And Brian, you talk about Atlanta. For me, I think Atlanta is going to be an over team throughout the year. I think we are going to see offense from this team, but like you said, I think their starting pitching is their weakness. So I'm actually going to be looking at the Atlanta games to go over the total. I'd say the majority of times, but I mean, we only need a slim majority for that to happen. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it all depends on what kind of lines they come off for the games. I understand the Colorado overs in Colorado for years. I mean, obviously they've got the humidor now, but it all depends on what the line is. And as long as we get a favorable line, yeah, I could see that happening.
Marco, let's go back to you. Any other bets you've made over and unders?
Well, one of the teams that we got to see this year when we were in spring training is the Arizona Diamondbacks. And their lineup, they're going to have trouble scoring runs this year. They gave up, they lost Paul Goldschmidt, their all-star player for years. Now, he is getting on the backside of his career, and his numbers have declined some over the year, but that still was one of their big power guys. I don't like what they've got to replace him. They also lost Patrick Corbin, one of their solid pitchers from last year. A.J. Pollock they lost. I don't see where they get the offense in this lineup. Now, if you look at Jake Lamb, if you go back 2 and 3 seasons ago, yeah, this was a guy who put up, breakout season, had like 30 homers out of nowhere, and then regressed again, had some injury problems. They shut him down last year so he could have surgery, and we'll see how he comes back this year. That would be a big plus for them offensively if he can regain that power. But I look up and down this lineup, and I just don't see a lot of runs from Arizona, which means they're going to have to win games if they're going to win them with really good starting pitching. Yes, they got Zach Greinke to start things off, and then you got Robbie Ray, who had, when he's healthy, had a good season, but he's had injury problems. Godley, the one start we saw him in spring training, he was god-awful. Now, you don't want to overreact from seeing just 1 or 2 games in spring training, but not impressed with him. They added Luke Weaver. Brian might have some comments on him. I'm not as high on Luke Weaver as a lot of people are. We'll see what he can do. I just don't see this as a team that can get over the 75.5 wins because there are other teams in that division that are much better. Colorado's a good team.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, we know what they have. The Padres, with the additions they made, are going to be improved. I think Arizona battles the Giants for last place in that division. I'm betting them under season win total.
He's Marco. I'm the Prez. Brian is with us. We've got a promo for all of you guys. MLB 200. That's $200 off of the entire baseball season. Just head over to WagerTalk.com. Use the promo code MLB 200. Brian, another futures over and under bet from you, my friend.
I'm thinking that Marco's got a love affair with Paul Goldschmidt. He takes St. Louis, who gets Paul Goldschmidt, goes against Arizona, who loses Paul Goldschmidt. I don't dislike the Diamondbacks as much as Marco does. I'm pretty even on it. But there is one team that I think is getting way too much publicity, and that's the Milwaukee Brewers. Once again, their base runs last year were 92. They were plus 14 in one-run games, even in the extra inning games. And then when you take a look at their numbers from this website for the WAR, they're looking at 80 WAR. And Milwaukee had a lot of guys who had career years last year. Christian Yelich obviously had his career year, winning the MVP. Jesus Aguilar, who was a Cleveland farmhand for a long time, he had a career year. They've got other guys that are on the downside of their careers. Ryan Braun. They did bring in Yasmani Grandal, a catcher. I think is a big upgrade there. But you take a look at their bench players coming into the season: Pena, Eric Thames, Hernan Perez, and Ben Gamble. Not the best bench on that team. And take a look at the starting lineup for the pitchers. You got Chassin is your number one starter. Julius Chassin. He's one of those guys that's a good journeyman, but I wouldn't consider him a number one starter. Corbin Burns is a guy that they're going to give a shot. I think he's a pretty good ball player. But Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff, Zach Davies, these are mid-range starters. So they're going to have to score a lot of runs. And, you take a look at the bullpen for Milwaukee, which really was the reason why they performed so well last year. Josh Hader is just tremendous. But you've got some other guys in that bullpen that obviously Corey Knebel, this is a guy who they were really expecting to come with a nice bounce back this year. He's already hurt. He may have Tommy John surgery. They're actually talking about bringing in Kimbrel from Boston to be their closer this year. So the strength of the Brewers from last year was the bullpen. It's not nearly as good this year. They've had major injuries, and it's really dropped off the last couple of weeks because of these injuries. I don't like the starting rotation at all here. And like I said, most of the guys from the batting, their hitters all had career years. So I'm looking for Milwaukee to go under. I bet Milwaukee under 86.5, which is about, gives me about a 5 to 6 game advantage there for Milwaukee. And it's one of those teams that puts up a lot of runs, and people love to bet on the teams that are big offensive teams. And Milwaukee is one of those teams where we can get that advantage on by playing the under in season wins.
He's Bryan Leonard, Marco D'Angelo. I'm the Prez. You're watching First Pitch. You can find it at WagerTalk TV starting April 6th. Yeah, 7-8 days into the regular season, starting April 8th. We're going to be doing First Pitch every day, Monday to Friday, with guests like Brian and Marco, Teddy, Dave Koken, Ralph, Tony. Baseball is one of the best sports to bet on, guys. And one we all take very, very seriously. Let's go straight to the division winners in the MLB. Marco, we'll start with you. We'll look at the NL Central. We already spoke to you about St. Louis. Chicago Cubs are plus 210. These numbers you can find at Bet365. St. Louis is plus 225, Milwaukee at plus 250, the Pittsburgh Pirates at plus 750, and same with the Cincinnati Reds. It's one thing to say who's going to win this division. It's another to say where's the best value here. Marco, I hand the NL Central to you.
Well, obviously I'm on St. Louis, and I agree with what Brian said. I see some regression out of Milwaukee this year. Everything went perfect for them last year, and when it was a one-run game, you go to that bullpen, they were money. I don't see that this year. I think the Cubs are going to take a step backwards as well. So I like this St. Louis team. I think this is their division to win. It's been a couple of years since they've made the playoffs, but prior to that, St. Louis was basically the New England Patriots of baseball, year in and year out. I mean, the moves they made, the pitchers that they had, they always seemed to find they always had good talent in their farm system with pitchers, bringing them up. And I think this is a team that, again, is going to resurface as a dominant team in the 2019 season. So it's all about St. Louis for me in the NL Central.
Bry, Cincinnati, we know this team can score. They're plus 750. I mean, is there any hope for either of these two dogs in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati at such big numbers?
I like Cincinnati. I bet them over season wins, and I think there's plenty of value here when you take a look at them to win this division. I'm with Marco. I think the Cubs take a step back. I don't think Pittsburgh's there. And the other teams, obviously, if you take a look at total talent, Cincinnati's probably the third best team in that division. But when you take a look at what you're getting paid for that, I like the Cincinnati Reds here. This is a team, and the pitching staff is, I think, much improved. Louis Castillo is a stud that nobody's talking about. This is a guy, he's a right-hander, 26 years old, that is really coming into his zone. Sonny Gray, they get Sonny Gray from the Yankees, and it's not easy to pitch in the city of New York. There's a lot of players that have struggled in New York and gone on to other places and had success. Sonny Gray had success in Oakland, and now he went to New York and struggled. Now he gets back to Cincinnati, and it is a ball club or a stadium that'll give up some home runs. But I think Sonny Gray right there is going to be a big addition to this pitching staff. Tanner O'Rourke and Anthony DeSclafani are both guys that have been fringe guys that I think can come through, be number 3 starters, and that's really all you need with this Cincinnati team. You take a look for offense. They've got Matt Kemp, who's been very good the last few years after he cleaned himself up a little bit, got in a little bit better shape, but he's the guy who's going to be splitting time in the outfield, left field with Jesse Winker, which is a guy that's been in their minors for a long time. So now they're going to get a full look at him. But you got Joey Votto, you got Eduardo Suarez at third base, one of the best third basemen in baseball. Nobody ever talks about, Puig coming over from L.A., played in the big.
This team's going to put up runs.
Yeah, they are going to put up a lot of runs, and you look to go up and down that lineup. They've got some quality players there. I like his bullpen. Iglesias, and I'm a big fan of Amir Garrett, Jared Hughes. They're pretty deep in the bullpen. They got David Hernandez back if he can be as good as he was earlier in his career. This is a team that can win, and I think we're going to see a lot of early season value betting the Cincinnati Reds in underdog situations. I can't wait. I know a lot of people are thinking Cincinnati is going to be about a 500 ball club this year, which is better than they've been the last few years. But I think this is a team that's going to really make us some money from a daily betting standpoint. And I think on the season, this is a team that can be there and fight it out for first place. They may not win it. Obviously, the line's telling you that they're not the favorite. But this is a team that's worthy of a wager.
Guys, make sure to watch part 2 of First Pitch Baseball Preview Show with Teddy and Dave Koken at YouTube, WagerTalk TV, our YouTube channel. Boys, Brian, I'll go to you first with the NL East. The Phillies plus 180 to win the division. Atlanta plus 250, Washington plus 300, the Mets at 333, and Miami at a massive plus 20,000. I hand it over to you, man. I mean, obviously Philadelphia is favored, but I don't know if this team is good enough to be a plus 180 with Atlanta, Washington, and the Mets right behind them. I think it's going to be way closer than that. I mean, we know Bryce Harper got picked up by Philly, but look, I mean, what has Mike Trout and the LA Angels done in the last 4 or 5 years? The best cleanup hitter in baseball, or the top 5 hitter in baseball, is not going to take a team to the promised land. I think they are lacking pitching. I think they're lacking depth all around. Plus 180 for Philadelphia seems absurd to me with 3 strong teams behind them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Philly's one of my games I bet under season wins, 89.5. You have to take a look at how the player coming in is better than the player that he's taking the place of. And, obviously Harper was It is a very good player. But when you take a look at the top 20 players in baseball, he's mid-range. He's a 10, 20 in that range. He's not the superstar that a lot of people make him out to be. I like some of the moves that Philadelphia has made, but this line's gotten outrageous. I mean, like I said, I bet it under 89.5. They're actually a game and a half higher than Washington, and I think Washington's the better overall team.
Well, they certainly have a better rotation.
Much better rotation. And you've got guys that are coming off of bad years. And
yep.
Washington is got plenty of depth. The problem with Washington in the past has been their bullpen, but Washington's really gotten much better in their bullpen this year. I signed a few guys off the street and that have had success in the past. So I think this Washington team is a real sleeper. And last year, if you bet Washington on the season on a daily basis, you lost your ass. I mean, they were a team that were laying 250 many times and just didn't have the right chemistry in the dugout. I think Washington, the best pitcher in baseball, is your starter for opening day. And that lineup is just so deep. I like Washington to win this division.
Marco, any thoughts here?
I agree 100%. Washington's my sleeper team in that division. And another factor to put in there is the last several years, Washington's been the team with the target on their back. All the pressure's been on them because they've been expected to do it. Since all of the signings and everything, Philadelphia's got that pressure now with Harper there. I think Washington is going to have a big year. And Brian can tell you, talk about, replacing players and so forth. Victor Robles for Washington. This guy, the hype on him coming up as a prospect, he's going to do big things in the major leagues. And you go with that already solid starting 1-2 of Scherzer and Strasburg. They added Patrick Corbin in the offseason, giving them a great number 3. This is a team, and they added Anibal Sanchez, and I know a lot of metrics guys don't like Sanchez as much as he always seems to overachieve with his numbers and what the more advanced metrics show for him. But he's a guy that's been solid, and him as a 4. I like this Washington team. I think there's a ton of value to bet them to win this division, and they've been there and done that before, whereas Atlanta and Philly, it's been a while since they've been this relevant in Major League Baseball.
What about to win it all? You think Washington has a shot here? Because, you're getting a great number. Brian, Washington at plus 2,000 to win it all.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Victor Robles. You also have Juan Soto out there, and that's 2 of the reasons why they let Harper go. Those are 2 guys that I happen to think are better than Harper right now, and they're rookies and second-year players. Washington, to me, Washington has the best value to win it all in the National League. The Dodgers, I think, are the more talented team, and they obviously have tons of money to be able to.
Yeah, but you're getting the Dodgers at plus 700.
Yes.
You're getting Washington. I mean, Washington is almost 3 times better odds. And, the bottom line, and we see this in so many sports, that, their superstar, the most overrated player in baseball, Bryce Harper, leaves the team. And the team has struggled to have a postseason run with him there the whole time. Irony is an amazing thing. And I feel like Bryce Harper leaving Washington might have been better for Washington than for Philadelphia.
The money that they saved from paying Bryce Harper, they've been able to get some guys in the bullpen, like I said. And as Marco pointed out, Corbin, this is a team that I think the Dodgers, like I said, I think the Dodgers are slightly better. But as you pointed out, with the difference in payoffs, Washington is the team that has the value. And the thing with the Dodgers is they don't have any competition. I'm not a huge Colorado fan. Right. I bet them for season to win. So the Dodgers are like the Cleveland Indians. They're going to run away with the division. So if you've already locked up the ability to win your division and make the playoffs, that's half the battle. Whereas Washington, as we pointed out with Philadelphia and the Mets and St. Louis, this is a team that is going to have a tougher battle to get there. But I think the wild card comes out of this division also. So that's why we're getting better value on Washington.
One last thing there to talk about the Dodgers and why Washington presents the value. The Dodgers are so reliant on Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, and he gets injured every year.
He gets injured every year. He's lost velocity on his fastball. He's in the decline. And if he doesn't have the stellar year that they need from him, and then you've always had the problems with Hill, Rich Hill with the blister problems all the time. This is a team that they don't have the depth pitching-wise that Washington does. And we know that if you lose a superstar for any period of time off of that starting rotation, the Dodgers become an average ball club. And that's the difference in where you're looking at the value. You add that into the equation, makes Washington an outstanding value play.
Yeah, and sorry, Brian.
I totally disagree with Marco. The Dodgers are the deepest team in Major League Baseball in starting pitching. They've got Walker Buehler came up last year. He's outstanding. He's already better than Kershaw. They got
better than Kershaw.
Julio Urias is up on the team now. This is a guy they've been waiting on for years. They haven't had a spot in the lineup. He's up there now. He's as good as Kershaw right now. Even Rio, Stripling, and Maeda are at that Kershaw level.
Come on, Bri. Come on, Brian.
No,
come on, man.
I'll tell you right now.
You just named three rookies that are better or as good as Kershaw.
Their numbers will be just as good as Kershaw's are this year.
Yeah, side wager.
I agree with Buehler. Walker Buehler had a fantastic season. I always hold my breath, though, the second year to see them duplicate that. There's nothing you can knock on him, but until you see the rookie come back and do it the following year, what the numbers he put up last year, especially if he becomes the go-to guy, I have to see it. But I agree with you that he has a ton of talent. He was better than Kershaw last year, far and away.
Guys, every team in baseball uses about 10 to 12 starting pitchers over the season. And what constitutes, the people that think, well, this rotation is great. Well, look at the Cleveland Indians. They've got 5 guys in rotation. They've probably got 1 guy in the minors that can actually enter that rotation. So if these guys get hurt, the Indians are screwed. The Dodgers are so loaded in starting pitching. They're going to use that 10, 12 guys, and the guys from 7 through 12 are going to be better than any other team. You got to take into injuries coming into the season. And as you guys pointed out, Kershaw has been hurt the last few years. He's still a great pitcher, but he's not going to get the innings in that he used to get. Used to be a 230 inning guy. If they can get 160 out of Kershaw this year, it'll be a good year.
Marco, we talked about the LA Dodgers, the NL West, minus 450. Colorado at plus 400. San Diego plus 1,100. The D-backs at 3,500 and the Giants at 4,000. The most lopsided division in baseball other than the AL West, where Houston is a ludicrous minus 700. I mean, can you bet the Dodgers here at minus 450, or is this division an entire pass?
Well, there's no value in betting them at minus 450. I surely don't want to tie up my money for 6 months on a minus 450. Is it, we don't want to use the word lock, but is the Dodgers a lock to win the division? Pretty much, because you look at this division top to bottom, the second best team I think is Colorado, and I know that Brian is not as high on Colorado. I still think that Colorado has the talent. The big question mark for them this year is it was just something that you didn't expect to see. The Colorado pitchers last year pitched so well at Coors. Defies logic. You would think they would have been better on the road than they would be at Coors with their numbers because of the altitude. But they pitched so well there last year. Can they duplicate that? They've got some good arms on that rotation, but Freeland and Marquez, those guys. But they're not going to catch the Dodgers. The Padres, they made strides. They signed Manny Machado.
And they got an incredible minor league. I mean, they got young guys coming up at every position.
Right. They're probably a couple years away from being a serious contender. But then the bottom two in this division are so bad, in my opinion, Arizona and San Francisco. San Francisco is an old ball club. This is a team that if they put Brian and me on their roster, it wouldn't hurt their average age because it's all old guys and veterans. And, you can get that lightning in a bottle maybe with some of the older guys, get that last year out of them, but you also got to worry about them breaking down and having the injuries. We've seen Buster Posey over the last several years. They can't keep him on the field. When you have a catcher that has a hip problem, that's the worst injury you could have for a catcher, hip and knees, because they're always in that position. Do they move him to first base to get his bat, in the lineup more? But we saw that his production went down because of the injury, last year. So I just don't like anybody else in this division. They can't help but not win the division. There's no other value there. I don't see if Brian disagrees.
If I was to play this, I'd probably put them in a 3-team parlay. The Dodgers, the Astros, and the Indians. To me, they're clearly the best teams in each of these divisions. But you don't want to lay a 4-1 favorite to hold it for the year. Just lay the 3-1, or excuse me, the 3 teams, and look for something in the 1-1 range. I think that's the way to play it.
He's Brian. I'm the Prez. It's Marco with us. It's our first show ever of First Pitch. April 8th, it'll start in earnest Monday to Friday at WagerTalk TV on our YouTube channel. And guys, remember, use the promo code MLB200, $200 off of our baseball season. It's my opinion, and you guys can disagree, but if you were going to buy a season of any sport all year round, it would be baseball. Marco?
Oh, you talk to any bookmaker in town and they tell you that's the sport they fear the most. And for the average bettor, that's the one they bet the least because they're intimidated because they're not dealing with a point spread. They got to deal with a money line, but you're getting true odds. And if you are a smart bettor and you're not laying all of those favorites, you're finding the value with the underdogs and the small favorites, it is very profitable for us as handicappers, and that's why I love the sport. I know Brian will have a take on it, but we talk to bookmakers all the time on our radio shows and podcasts, and every one of them will tell you to a T, baseball is probably the least volume, but it is the most exposure for the book they fear every year.
That's the show, boys. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining. Bryan Leonard, found at WagerTalk.com. Marco D'Angelo at WagerTalk.com, and same with me, the Prez. Boys, we'll send out a schedule. Be well. Best of luck. And enjoy the baseball season. I will be betting from start to finish. And as always, be taking advice from the two of you.
Good stuff.
Look forward to it.
Thanks, guys. Be well.